Yeah, adventure games are one of my favorite genres. I've played a lot of them, but to my shame, I've never played any of the King's Quest games.
Wait, you're joking, right?
No, I'm serious. I guess I just haven't got around to play them.
Okay, George, I want you to stop whatever the hell you're doing right now and go play the original King's Quest.
Is it really that good?
It doesn't matter how good it is. What matters is that you can't call yourself a fan of adventure games until you've played this game.
Let's do it then. Magnificent.
It isn't supposed to sound so off-key.
It's probably because of my recording software. Maybe it messes up the game somehow.
Why are you recording this game?
That's because I'm going to review it.
Are you kidding me? What insight into the adventure genre could you possibly provide when you have never played any of the King's Quest games?
Well, I did play dozens of other iconic adventure games, and don't you think that since I've never played the original King's Quest, I could offer a truly unbiased opinion of the game? Something so valuable to reviewing.
Okay, I see your point. Keep recording.
Now, even though I haven't played this game, this image right here is so iconic. Of Sir Graham standing next to a castle and a moat full of alligators. That's classic. The controls of this game are text insert, meaning that you have to type every command manually with your keyboard. My experience with such games tells me that the command look around is going to be very useful. Wait, nothing interesting. What about those giant alligators which move their upper jaws in a threatening motion not further than 3 feet from my nearest limb? Seems pretty freaking interesting to me.
George, this was one of the first adventure games with graphics. The very fact that you could see those alligators was supposed to be enough, without any text spelling out things to you.
Oh yes, the only adventure games the players have seen up to this point were titles such as Zork, Silicon Adventure Trilogy, and other games that no one remembers nowadays. They were mostly text, and even if they had any graphics, they were more akin to pictures from books or something even less impressive than that. And here comes King's Quest, which not only has cutting-edge, colorful graphics, but gives you a fully fledged world to explore and allows you to walk in 9 directions. Imagine that! You can walk left, right, up, down, and all sorts of crazy angles.
Now, I know that stuff doesn't sound like much today, but believe me that back in 1983, that stuff wasn't just innovative. It was mind-blowing.
Not only that, in addition to pretty much defining the genre, it established a format which would uphold for years to come, the combination of graphic adventure and text insert interface.
This type of gameplay is kind of a lost art, since the much more user-friendly point-and-click interface replaced it. But would you believe me if I were to tell you that some people actually prefer the text insert style?
The core reason why is because, while the point-and-click interface is much easier, the text insert interface forces you to actually think about your actions and to solve puzzles with your mind, instead of performing guessing work associated with the point-and-click inventory puzzles. And also, because you actually have to type every action, it creates a feeling of greater, much more personal interaction with the world of the game. For example, here I stumbled across a rock. In a point-and-click game, I would have a selection of actions to choose from, which by default would provide me with the foundation from which to approach the situation. But here I have nothing, just my keyboard. There is no foundation, no starting point. However, there is also no limit as to what I could do. I can bite the rock, I can touch it, I can try to kick or hit it, I can type anything I want, and the game will have to acknowledge it. Which means that I could do anything. And which also means that I have to put actual thought into figuring out what I'm supposed to do. In this case, I have to push the rock to reveal a hole. I type, look in hole. I see a dagger. I type, take the dagger. I could have typed, dance on the dagger. I could have typed, spit in the hole, or many other commands I could have thought of, and that is something beyond the capabilities of the limited point-and-click interface.
Still, this interface is by default immensely hardcore, and in reality it is not superior to its point-and-click analog. In addition to just being alienating to the non-mentally insane crowd, there is a very specific characteristic which defines the distinction between those two types of gameplay. The text insert style is way too demanding. It focuses too much on the gameplay aspect, and it overshadows the plot of the game, its characters and its lore, the elements which are canonically considered to be the strongest elements of the adventure genre.
When you play a point-and-click adventure, you don't have to concentrate on the gameplay. It becomes secondary to the story, which naturally becomes the main feature. But when you play a text insert game, if you don't pay 100% attention to the gameplay, you won't be able to beat it. Not to mention that most of those types of games have dead ends. You can miss some item or forget to do some action and BAM! Now you have to start the game all over again. With this gameplay, you are inclined to treat every dialogue and information not as much as a continuation of an ongoing narrative, but as a collection of clues, which might help you win the game.
Now, even though I've painted a pretty dire picture, I have to say that the text insert interface is not inferior either.
The satisfaction and therefore enjoyment of puzzle solving in this approach is much greater. The player's engagement in the gameplay is by definition better in the text insert games, due to just how much more involving this interface is than the point-and-click one. Finally, even though the lore and story get compromised, the atmosphere doesn't. If anything, this style increases immersion of the player, because it provides the freest possible manner of interaction with the world of the game.
This leads me to believe that even though those approaches are so different and appeal to different types of gamers, they're equal. It all falls down to just how well the game implemented the chosen interface in the overarching experience. Or in other words, just how good the goddamn game is. So, with that said, let's get back to King's Quest.
Right now I appear to be in the clouds, walking on them like on solid ground. Let's look around. Nothing interesting. Why even bother acknowledging this command if you are never responding to it? Or were you thinking that it would be awkward if I were to type something as obvious as look around and the game would not acknowledge it? Well, if that was the case, then it's pretty hypocritical when there were so many obvious commands that I've typed which the game seemed to not understand. And I'm not even talking about profanities, I get it, you don't want to include them in the game. But the shoot command. The freaking shoot command. The command which I desperately needed in order to, shoot a pebble from a sling at a giant who was going to kill me. Wasn't that awkward? I died. You see, the two major problems of this game are the lack of feedback and the limited vocabulary. The essence of puzzle solving is the ability to come up with a solution to a puzzle based on the available objects and data. The only way to gather the data in an adventure game is by examining your environments and paying attention to clues. And this is where the lack of feedback comes crashing in. Well, let's see. Whenever you type look around, the game answers nothing special. Whenever you do something wrong, you read an ambiguous message. You can't do that, at least not now. The game doesn't give you any hints as to what to do and doesn't help you in locating any items. It depends on the visuals and presumes that it's going to be enough, when in reality it isn't. Many times has the game ignored my commands because I was simply misinterpreting the visual on the screen. And with that resolution, can anyone blame me? In Leisure Suit Larry or Quest for Glory 2, you can type "look", and the game will elaborate on the interactable objects within the location. And with such primitive graphics, it is often necessary. As for the limited vocabulary, at times I've tried for minutes to convey my intentions to the game, which is awful, since my efforts as a player should be directed towards solving puzzles and not arm wrestling with the game's interface. Not to mention that the feeling of the described text insert freedom is completely destroyed as a result. These issues make it feel like there is a wall between you and the game, a wall which prevents you from becoming truly engaged in the adventure, which is a real shame since the game itself has a lot to offer. As you start the game, you notice that you can go wherever you want and that the world is pretty much open to you. Furthermore, the game doesn't intervene with any guidance or suggestions. You are completely free. And what is brilliant is that no matter where you go, you do stumble across something of value. An object, a puzzle, or an encounter with one of the enemies, such as wolves, ogres, and a witch. The only thing you can do in those encounters is to run away, although you can deal with some of those enemies in a different manner. For example, here you can see me sitting in the witch's bedroom, performing the heroic deed of waiting for an old lady to come home so that I could murder her. But the witch is running late. It's not even funny, look at how long it takes. I mean, am I doing something wrong? It's like the game looks at me and says, "So I see you're planning to hide here until the granny comes home so that you could push her in the oven and burn her to death. That's horrible, I can't allow that." You know, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, I suspect that it was true. Since as soon as I left the house and entered again, the witch was there. How? How did she get in there? I was standing by her freaking door. But after all the hustle, the moment I finally scorched her in flames was extremely satisfying. And look here, the game gave me 10 points for it. King's Quest, you hypocritical bastard, after all this preaching you get off to incinerating old ladies even more than I do. The world we live in, folks. This gameplay situation was interesting, but how about raising the stakes a little? Right now I'm about to fight a dragon. That's freaking epic. I can't wait to figure out how to defeat this magnificent beast. Let's try to throw a dagger at him first. After that I will probably use the magic Did he die? Excuse me. Did a simple dagger, let alone thrown nervously, one shot at the most awesome mythological beast in history of human civilization, was that it? Was that all that it took? Turns out the reason it was so easy to defeat the dragon is because that was not the only way to deal with him. How about throwing water at him and extinguishing his flames? Or wearing a magic ring which turns you invisible and allows you to get the mirror without fighting?
Multiple solutions to puzzles are a truly great feature of the King's Quest. Not only does it bring replayability into the game, but it also makes it more forgiving. If every puzzle demanded a specific item in order to solve it, you would have to collect everything in the game in order to beat it. But with multiple solutions to puzzles, you can miss some items and still be able to solve puzzles with the items that you did manage to find.
And now we can finally see the structure of this game. You are thrown into an open world which you can freely explore in your own way. During your exploration you find some items and miss others. Then you stumble into a situation which presents a puzzle, and you use one of the items you did manage to find in order to solve it in one of the multiple ways it could be resolved.
Now I don't know about you, but this concept sounds ingenious to me. It basically means that every single part of gameplay is variable, and as a result, the game as a whole is completely non-linear.
What this means is that every player will have his own unique experience with this game. Because of how open it is, players will explore it differently. They will go in different directions, find different items, and obtain them in different order. And what is even more incredible is that they will find different situations in different order too. And after they resolve them in any of the many possible ways, they will acquire new items, which will then open even bigger arrays of possible solutions for puzzles that they haven't yet encountered.
The result is a game which is as non-linear as to make the playthrough of every player a unique experience. That is an incredible concept, and it actually works. However, there is a problem. A big one.
The game is based around exploration, yet the world isn't interesting to explore. It is as stereotypical a setting as you can get, with practically dead characters. Whenever you talk to someone, the game just shows you one dialogue box. There is no questioning, no explanations, nothing. The characters in this game can be easily replaced by signs, with writings on them, and as a result this game feels empty and soulless. But the biggest flaw is the lack of atmosphere.
Now you might be baffled at how can I expect a good atmosphere when both graphics and audio are so dated. Well, the reason is that you don't need amazing technology in order to create an amazing atmosphere.
In Wizardry 7 the presentation was horrible, yet the game used it masterfully to create an atmosphere of existential melancholy. Leisure Suit Larry managed to create an atmosphere of cheap, dirty City of Vice in which Larry's enthusiasm is comedically juxtaposed with the harsh cynicism of the world.
The point is, you don't need technology in order to make an atmospheric game. But King's Quest just doesn't manage to pull it off, and it cripples the game overall.
This is a big issue I have with this game. It requires the player to explore, to wander around and try different things, but I simply don't want to do that. The reason the player might want to explore is because he enjoys staying in the world of the game. He enjoys its atmosphere or setting and doesn't mind exploring it a little more. The world of King's Quest isn't interesting. It has no characters and no atmosphere. So instead of trying to figure out stuff by himself, the player will simply open an FAQ right off the bat. It means that the main features of this game are compromised. The open world non-linear exploration and puzzles with multiple solutions. Just because this world was not worth investing in. I mean, I've played Quest for Glory 2 for days. I was stuck numerous times in that game, yet I didn't look up any solutions because I didn't mind spending extra time in this game. The reason why is because it created a fantastic world with characters, intriguing lore and, above all, incredible atmosphere. King's Quest 1 on the other hand made me look up an FAQ in about an hour after I got stuck, and allow me to state this personal belief of mine. If the person who adores adventure games and loves old classics more than anything can't stand the exploration of this world, then it's pretty bad. So what we have here is a game of great potential, yet poor execution. The ingenious concept of the non-linear adventure through an open world is destroyed with the boring world not worth exploring. Puzzles with multiple solutions are crippled with the wall of limited vocabulary and lack of feedback, which prevents you from truly enjoying the game. Every theoretically great thing about this game is plagued with a deeply flawed realization. But I have to say that all the criticism I've mentioned so far comes from a perspective of a man spoiled with the superior adventure titles. Compared to them, King's Quest 1 doesn't hold up in the slightest, but at the time of release, I can only imagine how impressive this game must have been. An adventure through a world which you can actually see and interact with. A game which can be played in different ways. People hadn't seen anything like this. The novelty of this game was mind-blowing. There is, however, a very big difference between novelty and mastery. With age, a novel game loses any value it had. It becomes a dated piece of history. A masterful game, however, remains interesting even decades after its original release, in spite of its limited technology and due to how the game managed to utilize its limitations to its advantage. King's Quest was a novel game, but Quest for Glory 2 was a masterful game, because it used the technological limitations in such a manner as to create and sustain the dreamy atmosphere of Arabian land, which would be ruined with the more advanced technology, as proven by the pathetic VGA remake of the game.
So overall, King's Quest I is a game which will keep alluring gamers with its legendary status. Yet there is one thing almost universal about it. Whenever somebody talks about this game, they will always attest at how important it was. But no one ever truly feels passionate about it, rather cold even. That is because they all know that, as of today, King's Quest I is a bad game.
I hate you.
What?
I hate you so much I want to punch you.
Well, you can't, Seal, because you don't have any hands.
Said the man who doesn't have any friends.
Let's play King's Quest 2.
Okay.